Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Wagner's Die Walküre, which was live from the Bayerische Staatsoper. The conductor was Kirill Petrenko, the production was done by Andreas Kriegenborg, the sets were done by Harald B. Thor, the costumes were done by Andreas Schrad, the lights were handled by Stefan Bolliger, the choreographer was Zenta Herta, and the dramaturgy was handled by Marion Tirke and Miron Hackenbeck. I was anticipating this particular live stream because of the star-studded cast, which consisted of Simon O'Neill, Ain Anger, Jon Lundgren, Nina Stemme, and Anja Kampe, and of course Ekaterina Gubanova as the principal players. I'll gladly talk about their performances much later in this review, but first, my thoughts on the production. Overall, I found it to be rather minimalistic in its execution. However, it managed to do one thing really well, and that was show and don't tell, especially evidenced in the very first act, where we see Siegmund in his hoodie and he is trying to run away from his foes on one stormy night, and he finds out that he has been overpowered despite using every ounce of his strength to defend himself. So much so that his original sword was broken into pieces. That is until he arrives in Hunding's house, where he not only has Sieglinde by his side, but also a crowd of maidservants, probably to show that Hunding doesn't just have his wife, but he has a lot of other consorts to give him some type of sensual pleasure, so to say. And it's not just the servants which are present in Hunding's home, but also in Valhalla in the form of manservants, where we have one set for Wotan and another set for Fricka, probably to show that these two, despite the fact that they are married, are still in a lot of marital conflict after what happened in Das Rheingold. And what's very interesting about this particular production is what happens before the Ride of the Valkyries. We see a crowd of female dancers who are stamping their feet with the help of some really strong tap shoes to show that the Valkyries are on their horses. And while that was a pretty good concept right there, I felt like it was a bit dragged out. And since this is the Ride of the Valkyries, we even get to see some men on pikes to show that they have been offered to Valhalla as a sort of reward because of the fact that they were in battle, or they even sacrificed their lives for the sake of either winning in battle or dying with honor. So there were some pretty good concepts to be found in this production, though I'm not really a huge fan of it. But I will say that the costumes were equally interesting, especially that of the gods. What I noticed about the gods' costumes is that they all have whitish, platinum blonde hair, probably to signify the fact that this is sort of the ideal look. Well, most notably blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin, mostly to show that that is basically the ideal Caucasian makeup. But even though I thought this particular move was rather interesting and, dare I say, quite fascinating, there were times I couldn't really distinguish between who played which Valkyrie because of the fact that they all had the same wig and the same attire. Even more so, that said attire is supposed to distinguish the gods and the humans. While the gods are basically limited to having this platinum blonde / whitish wig, the humans, on the other hand, have their normal clothing, with Sieglinde wearing a red dress and black shoes, and even having Siegmund partially in black, and of course Hunding in darker earthy colors. So the juxtaposition between humankind and the divine may not be that subtle, but it kind of works in its own special way. So overall, even though I'm not really a major fan of this particular production, I still have to say that everyone behind it did a fine job making this work in its own special way. Sure, there were times I thought the choreography was a bit elongated, but I still have to give a lot of credit to the dancers and the statisterie for doing everything they can to make this production shine. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Jon Lundgren as Wotan. What more can I say about Mr. Lundgren? I've been seeing him live for many times, mostly at the Deutsche Oper Berlin in roles like Johanna Ann and Telramund, and I have to say that he managed to keep his fine and rich Heldenbariton voice intact. The way he was able to bring Wotan to life was absolutely exceptional. I can sense the conflicting emotions he has as a character. I can sense the overall turmoil he has to go through, not only with his responsibilities as the king of the gods, but also a father to his favorite daughter Brünnhilde, especially when she disobeys his command to get rid of Siegmund so that he can be offered up to Valhalla, but unfortunately she defies him, and you could see that absolute pain that he has because he has to let go of his own daughter. And Mr. Lundgren was an accomplished singing actor, but more than anything, his Heldenbariton voice, which was rich and cavernous in texture, absolutely pristine in technique, and overall wonderful in execution, was an absolute triumph to listen to. He managed to combine his talents as a flawless singer and an equally involving actor and make the role of Wotan his own. Stealing the show was indubitably Ekaterina Gubanova as Fricka. I've been following her career for many years, and this was definitely a role I have been wanting to hear and see her in for the longest time. She has been embodying this role for about, I would say, 5 to 10 years, and here she was able to show how fierce she is as a singing actress. She was able to show so many facets of Fricka that I was really involved in everything she had to go through. She was able to show a lot of agony because of how Wotan could not keep to his word in terms of being her husband. You could see the absolute wrath that she has because Wotan has his libertine way of life, and because Fricka is the goddess of marriage, you can see her overall turmoil when she finds out that Siegmund and Sieglinde have committed incest and adultery and wants those two punished, especially Siegmund. I can tell that Ekaterina Gubanova had an absolute blast with this particular role. There is a lot of charisma, enthusiasm, and of course, as the Germans call it, Spielfreude, in her eyes, in her mannerisms, and in everything she did as a singing actress. And with that great theatricality is also great musicianship, and it's all thanks to that focused and absolutely great timbre found in her plush and wide-ranging dramatic mezzo-soprano voice. So, Ekaterina Gubanova, brava to you and everything you had to offer as Fricka. You were absolutely amazing as a singing actress, and you managed to steal the show effectively. Ain Anger was a handsome and absolutely magnificent Hunding with his trademark round, rich, and handsome basso cantante / basso profondo voice. He was able to make the role of Hunding come to life. He didn't make him nasty in a cartoonish way, but he made him nasty and vile in a pretty subtle manner. He was able to keep his roguish gentleman aura intact, but at the same time back it up with malice, which he managed to master so effectively. So I'm not going to mince words here about Ain Anger as Hunding. He was always a flawless singing actor, and he certainly made the role come to life as he always did. Simon O'Neill was a solid Siegmund, and I first heard this tenor when I was 15 years old, traveling with my father in London, as we saw him as Florestan from Beethoven's Fidelio at the Royal Opera House. Back then at 15, I thought his voice was pretty good, and those were the same sentiments I had about his voice as a 25-year-old. Yes, his voice is good all the way through. However, there were times I felt like his intonation was on the nasal side. That's not to discredit his talents as a singing actor. He was still able to be involved in everything he did as Siegmund, even though he did show some signs of being stolid or being a bit one note with his expressions. But I still have to give him credit for the effort he put in, especially when it came to portraying Siegmund. It should come off as no surprise that he has been embodying Siegmund for many years. And he did find a lot of success with this particular role, as well as the Helden tenor repertoire in general. However, if you ask me, I always prefer it when I hear a rounder, richer, more cavernous and baritonal Helden tenor sound, a la Ramon Vinay, Setz van Holm, Max Lorenz, or even the great Lauritz Melchior. I would have loved to hear all of these true Helden tenor voices embody Siegmund. But I still have to say that Simon O'Neill was a decent package all the way through. He put in a lot of effort with this role, and he was able to sing all the notes really well. And even though I was not really a fan of his nasal tone, I still have to say that he was a fine musician, and he certainly knew how to make the role of Siegmund come to life in his own special way. His sister/wife, Sieglinde, was sung by the ever-wonderful, ever-fabulous Anja Kampe. And boy, did she steal the show as well in this particular role. First of all, what's always been admirable about her is her peerless musicianship, found in her dramatic soprano voice. It should come off as no surprise that she did start off as a lyric soprano, but as the years rolled by, she sang a lot more spinto soprano roles, to the point where in the late 2000s and early 2010s, she found herself singing a lot of these dramatic soprano roles. She had her beginnings with the likes of Donna Elvira from Don Giovanni, before traversing to the likes of Elisabeth from Tannhäuser, Tosca, and even that of Sieglinde, and even one time Brünnhilde from the Walküre, and let's not forget about Isolde and Kundry. The metamorphosis Frau Kampe went through as a singer certainly shows, and she managed to blow me away as Sieglinde. This was an absolutely fine and electrifying dramatic soprano who gave the goods in everything she did, and for that I thought her efforts were more than laudable. I thought that everything she did flawlessly. Yes, if you know me, I would have loved it to hear any mezzo sing Sieglinde, a la Gisela Schröter, Margrethe Elkins, or even my most personal favorites, Waltraud Meyer, Ljoba Braun, or even that of Yvonne Naef. But all tastes aside, I still have to give a lot of credit to Anja Kampe for her absolutely magnificent accomplishments as Sieglinde. Nina Stemme was an overall solid Brünnhilde, as she was able to make great use of her dramatic soprano voice and make Brünnhilde come alive as a character. Yes, unfortunately, we have at our disposal all the great hochdramatische sopranos of the past, those being Astrid Varnay, Rossi, Margaret Harshaw, Deborah Pulaski, and to some extent Gabriele Schnaut, though if you ask me, I do like Isolde Eichlepp a lot better. And of course, what we've been having today with the likes of Evelyn Herlitzius, Violetta Urmana, Petra Lang, and of course, Christine Gerke. But I still have to give loads of credit to Nina Stemme for being an absolutely committed, hardworking, dedicated, and diligent singing actress. She was able to find a lot of light moments with this particular character, and she knew how to use her talents as a singing actress to the best of her abilities. So aside from the main roles of Wotan, Fricka, Hunding, Siegmund, Sieglinde, and Brünnhilde, we also had such equally amazing and stellar singing from Daniela Köhler's absolutely gorgeous and rich-voiced Helmwege, Karen Foster's equally gorgeous and finely tuned and absolutely powerful Gerhilde, Anna Gabler's beautifully focused and absolutely fine spinto soprano voice being put to great use as Ottlinde, Michaela Seelinger's solid and finely tuned Waltraute, all thanks to her lyric mezzo voice, though I would have wanted to have a little bit more of a dramatic mezzo meatiness in that particular role. Rachel Wilson's elegant, eloquent, and charming Schwebleite, though if you ask me, I would have loved to have either a mezzo contralto or even that of a pure contralto singing this role. I digress. I still have to give a lot of credit to Miss Wilson for everything she did as a flawless singing actress. Helena Zubanovich's dramatic and absolutely awesome Zigrune, Oka von der Damarau's full-toned and blooming Grimgerde, and Jennifer Johnston's well-focused, well-tuned, and purely awesome Rosweise. So overall, the singing was absolutely great all around, and special kudos has to go to Jon Lundgren for his stirring portrayal of Wotan, Ekaterina Gubanova for her electrifying portrayal of Fricka, and of course, the two main ladies, Anja Kampe, who gave such a magnificently stirring performance of Sieglinde, and Nina Stemme, whose efforts were strong all the way through as Brünnhilde. These were the absolute standouts in my opinion, and they deserved the highest amounts of kudos I could ever give to them. And the conducting done by Kirill Petrenko was exciting, enticing, and absolutely awesome all the way through. He was so involved with the text that he made sure that the orchestra and the singers went together, and of course, the orchestra of the Bayerische Staatsoper were flawless. So overall, even though I was not a huge fan of the production, I still have to give a lot of credit to all the singers for pulling through and for doing magnificent jobs in their own special way. And let's not forget about the absolutely amazing conducting by Kirill Petrenko. Regardless of what I thought about the production, I still have to say that the artistry shown in all of these singers, and of course with Kirill Petrenko's masterful hands as a conductor, were enough for me to say that this was an absolute blast from beginning to end. And for those of you who tune into this particular live stream of Wagner's Die Walküre, what'd you think of it? Did you feel like Nina Stemme stole the show as Brünnhilde? Was there another singer who stole her thunder, whether it be Jon Lundgren, Ekaterina Gubanova, or Anja Kampe, or even that of Simon O'Neill or Ain Anger? Or do you feel like there was someone that stuck out like a sore thumb? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in much later for my review of Rossini's Guillaume Tell live from the Royal Opera House. And if you do enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And until then, good night everybody.